Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Anna Chong-Panachai. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at the National Association of Manufacturers. Today, we are joined by our partners for the NAM Energy Program. NAM has created several programs for our manufacturing members to help them achieve their operational goals. Environ Energy has become our selected partner of choice for NAM Energy due to their expertise within the manufacturing space. During today's program, we're going to discuss ways that manufacturers can fund their energy efficiency projects. Before we begin, a few housekeeping notes. Today's session is being recorded, and we will provide a link to a copy of the recording 24 hours after the end of today's call. All participants are muted to maintain sound quality. However, the chat is open as well as the Q&A function, and we encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation. There will be a polling question, so do make sure that you are paying attention to your screen. For today's call, I am happy to welcome two of our partners from Environ. Jeff Hogan, as Vice President of Sustainability, leads Environ Energy's sustainability, carbon compliance, and strategic advisory practice. With over 15 years of experience at the intersection of energy, real estate, and environmental performance, Jeff advises some of the largest manufacturers on how to align carbon reduction strategies with financial and operational goals. We are also joined by Brian Malarkey, a seasoned solution sales engineer at Environ Energy with decades of hands-on experience, specializing in the discovery, design, and implementation of energy conservation measures, distributed generation solutions, and comprehensive sustainability strategies. He holds an active electrical license in the state of Connecticut and brings a deep understanding of facilities management. So let's look at what we're talking about today. For our program today, we're looking at why manufacturers need to focus on energy and why it's so important. What we know from our past research is that manufacturing is responsible for about 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So efficiency is not just key to the environment, it reduces your actual manufacturing costs and it can improve your competitiveness. There are market forces such as regulations, ESG requirements, corporate sustainability goals, and stakeholder investments that are making efficiency essential.
Good afternoon and good morning to all. Welcome to the webinar. So some of the strategic importance of efficiency in manufacturing are the energy represents, most of you know this, the energy represents up to 30% of your operating costs in manufacturing. Depending on what you do, it could be higher, it could be lower, but that's a pretty good standard. The benefits of efficiency is that, retrofits can save somewhere between 10 and 40% on energy savings, again, depending on what you do and what your processes are. And the incentives are, as you've heard, may or may not have heard, incentives are very generous now, and potentially, delaying causes potential savings or money left on the table. Next. So quantifying the opportunity. Over half of the global energy use comes from manufacturing. The energy costs, again, depending on where you are, energy costs are volatile, but efficiency helps you to mitigate risk in regards to prices of your energy. And then the being able to deliver a return on investment helps reinforce the business case of why you should invest in efficiency. Next. And again, the purpose of the slide today, or the presentation today, is to help you unlock those incentives, grants, tax breaks, and carbon credits. There are these are the three primary categories. These are stackable in that you can take access to all three of them: grants, subsidies, tax credits, and/or deductions, and then monetizing the carbon credits. Next. So, excuse me. Yeah, and so partnering with people like us and Environ is that we will help you with your identifying the opportunities and quantifying savings. We design a roadmap to help you get there. And then part of that is delivering a report that's actionable and implementing the design and or the engineering of same. And this is one of the back to one of the features that we can, help guide you on or assist you with, is that the federal incentives, there is a lot. This is a very hot topic in the news right now, but all of these 3 federal incentives are absolutely in effect at this time. So the investment tax credit is 30% of investment for renewable energy systems, and there are bonuses. There's a production credit on the federal level for manufacturing of clean energy components. And then 179D is a rebates or investment, a direct payment for energy efficient design. Next. Which brings us to our next polling question. And where are you from in this webinar?
At this point, we'd like to ask all of our attendees to input into chat, and there is the option to share it with all attendees if you would like the rest of the audience to see, and if you want to know who else is on with you. Let us know where you have your manufacturing facilities. As we mentioned at the beginning of this call, there are different incentives per state. Okay, looks like we've got a large presence along the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast area. And then we do have looks like a hard showing from Texas as well. Okay, do you have some people with multiple facilities? I'm seeing one that has Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas. Fantastic. Thank you for providing all this information, and we will provide custom follow-up afterwards. Back over to you, Jeff and Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. As introduced previously, my name is Jeff Hogan, the VP of Sustainability for Environ. Thank you, Brian, for taking us through those initial slides, and thank you, Anna, for helping us out with those polling questions. It gives us a lot of context to tailoring the content to each of you that are attending here today. What we're seeing on the slide here is a simple scorecard, if you will. The darker the color, the better the score, meaning that there's better utility incentive or generally incentive programs available. As you can clearly see here, the Northeast is very densely populated with both states and these incentive programs. Obviously, Denver is also called out as well. State of Colorado, Denver specifically, and then the West Coast. So we're going to try to touch upon the areas where they have the states that have the best versions of those incentive programs. And again, as Anna had indicated, please put questions into the chat so that we can make sure to try to address those towards the end of this webinar. The first program that we wanted to highlight is RISE PA or PA RISE. There is a significant amount of funding available, as indicated here, $400 million that's available through the PA DEP. They are focusing predominantly on large energy consumers, so the sectors being healthcare, manufacturing, schools, and local governments. A lot of these incentive programs, this is just a broad theme. A lot of incentives are focusing or trying to shift customers towards clean heating and cooling technologies. And obviously, where that fits into your facility can potentially be a challenge, be it grid constraints or just being able to meet peak heating and cooling demand. But there are some really, really good incentives out there for that clean heating technology, and that's something that this utility incentive program is offering to folks. PA Rise or Rise PA is also allowing for or creating incentives for electric vehicle infrastructure, solar, and as indicated here, deep energy retrofits. Deep energy retrofits would be defined as a comprehensive set of projects that reduce or reshape the overall electrical or thermal load profiles for your facilities. Additionally, these programs, most of them, it's not a blanket statement, but most also subsidize the due diligence that's required to identify these projects. So covering the costs of audits, usually not 100%, some do, but covering that cost to ensure that we can get to the point or assist organizations in identifying those measures. That covers that on-site due diligence cost, a lot of the data analysis, the conversations with your facilities folks to identify the areas of inefficiency, the things that are breaking often that require a lot of maintenance, and ultimately would yield significant energy savings if they were to be replaced. This is a relatively new program and a really good one for those in Pennsylvania to take advantage of. Moving on to New York. So New York consists of a lot of different utilities, but the state has an organization called NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research Development Authority. The programs that we wanted to highlight here are the On-Site Energy Manager Program and the FlexTech program. The On-Site Energy Manager Program is the goal of enabling organizations to effectively hire their own energy manager, proving the benefit of energy management programs, more broadly speaking. We all know the old adage of you can't manage what you don't measure. If you're not managing your energy consumption, if you're not managing your energy spend, then it's tough to put a finger on where you're trending, the historical changes, year-over-year results, etc. So NYSERDA is offering to cover 75% of the cost of that energy manager, and that could be an individual or a consultant such as Environ. And that's up to a $200,000 cost share for typically a 2-year period. There are some, really good programmatic requirements through NYSERDA, specifically the development of an energy management program, retro commissioning measures, identifying just broadly energy conservation measure opportunities within the facility. And this is a really good program from where we sit because it requires us to engage across the entire organization to ensure that we are understanding what can be done, how can we move the needle. The kicker for NYSERDA is that if you can achieve your goal, your energy savings goal over the duration of that program, you actually get an additional bonus of $14,000. All of those can really help to offset that cost, and really even just by analyzing your data, your monthly bills, interval data, if it's available, just those conversations can spur opportunities or really low cost efficiency measure opportunities within your organization. Additionally, NYSERDA offers a FlexTech program or the Flexible Technical Assistance Program. And similar to PA Rise, this offsets the cost of a targeted energy study. So this could be an ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit. It could be a specific focus on particular energy consuming systems. The goal there is to have the output of that study being a list of measures that the organization is seriously considering, or just offsetting the cost of tackling complicated problems that everybody has within their facilities. Both of these programs are really great. To participate in the NYSERDA program and broadly all utility incentive programs, there's usually a component on your utility invoice that funds these programs. So you're already paying effectively for these programs through your utility invoices, and that is something that's dictated by the tariff. So it's in your best interest to at least understand what's available to you, what makes sense to pursue, because as a utility ratepayer, you are funding the opportunity or funding these incentive pools that are being offered to large commercial organizations. Additionally, you can not only take advantage of NYSERDA funding, but if the output of those audits and the identification of energy conservation measures identify projects that you want to move forward with, there are typically also the specific utility incentive programs that you can pursue in conjunction with that NYSERDA funding. So just a couple listed here are Con Edison, National Grid, and NYSEG. Con Ed being Manhattan, National Grid being on Long Island, and NYSEG being falling in the Lower Hudson Valley. They all have different incentive programs, but generally speaking, they're all trying to push customers towards energy efficiency and reducing the amount of power that is being pulled from the grid. Next up, it's a lot of information, but we have on here just all of the states in the Northeast: Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. They all have different state-run programs. And again, really all of these, aside from Rhode Island currently, are really pushing, again, for that clean heating and cooling technology. They all have opportunities to help incentivize the replacement of aged infrastructure, to improve the overall efficiency of your plants, your systems, boiler plants, chiller plants, etc. They all come in different shapes and sizes, as I had mentioned previously, but all of these are just really, really good opportunities and programs for individuals to capitalize on, or at least consider when you're in your planning phases, when you're looking at replacing infrastructure. This money is always available to you, again, if you meet the minimum program requirements. And we always are upset internally when people are installing these measures and not trying to get some of the money back that you have paid to these utility companies for so long. Like I had said, some of these programs are a little bit different. And one thing to note, in like Rhode Island specifically, some of these are prescriptive utility incentives in that you replace equipment and you get an incentive check, assuming you follow that process. Some of these programs, and again, Rhode Island specifically, also has what they call a Strategic Energy Management Program, or SEM program, which allows you to package a handful of energy conservation measures that meet certain criteria and offer a very low cost, if not 0% financing through the utility to help offset that initial first cost and amortize that cost over a 5-ish year period. It does require, as I had said, a lot of planning, but these are really, really good incentive programs. They do change relatively consistently, so it's great to have a partner like Environ, who is always going to keep we always keep our finger on the pulse of what is changing. And we are always happy to advise individuals, companies, organizations on what those changes mean, if that has any implications for your capital planning, or if now is the time to take advantage of these incentives because they may be changing on an annual basis. They are typically run through the PSC, or the Public Utilities Commission, and that's why those incentives change. It's all dictated by the tariffs for these respective utilities. Moving out west, we also wanted to highlight California and the state of Colorado, specifically Denver. So California is heavily incentivizing behind the meter storage, so behind the meter renewables. This is a very long-standing program and is likely to continue just to help California meet its renewable energy goals and bring additional grid stability. One thing to also note for California and some of these programs, broadly speaking, if you're located in a disadvantaged community, sometimes there are enhanced incentives that your organization can take advantage of. And there are maps, publicly available maps, to determine if your facility falls into one of those communities or one of those areas within a respective state. California also has some other incentive programs that are run by the respective utilities. And again, broadly speaking, they are very similar. If you can save, or if a project is going to save energy, it's likely that you're able to get some type of funding from the utilities. That really just depend upon a variety of factors, but those are all questions that we'd love to answer as a follow-up to this webinar. Additionally, Energize Denver. So interestingly enough, and this is not specific to Denver, but there are municipalities, states, cities that are really pushing carbon compliance or carbon limits. And the Energize Denver program really came about through an ordinance that is putting specific energy use intensity or total energy per square foot by a certain date. For Denver, that's 2030. Failure to do so is going to result in fines. So we also see that in the state of Maryland, New York City, Boston, and some others. But there's a lot of momentum building in that sense. But with the stick comes the carrot, and the carrot is a lot of funding that's available to help customers identify the pathway to compliance, the pathway to efficiency, and to offset some of the cost that they are, more or less forcing an organization to incur, to reduce those fines, to reduce carbon, to improve efficiency, and increase grid stability. The benefits, broadly speaking, is that either you can generate revenue streams, my apologies, in terms of incentive checks. If you are pursuing renewable energy on site, there are opportunities to further monetize the credits that result from a behind the meter solar installation, batteries, etc. Changing gears a little bit, community solar can be viewed as an incentive to some extent, but community solar is really just offsite renewable energy, or offsite solar arrays. The community solar programs are specific to states. So as listed on the bottom here, we have New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, and Maryland. There are programs that are, as noted for Maryland, are in pilot. PA is one that has been introduced to the legislature, but not yet something that has passed. And it's kind of this seems too good to be true situation, in that if you can subscribe to a community solar project, you will achieve a 5 to 15% savings on your electricity bill through the utility. These are, the programmatic differences are really just on the contract term. Typically, they are going to want to lock you in to a longer contract term. The reason that you can achieve those savings is because you are subscribing and ensuring that financially these projects can continue, and that you're an off-taker from those facilities. That again is these projects come and go. They're not always available. So it's always great again to have a partner that is monitoring these programs, that has the relationships with the developers that broker these deals. It is a great opportunity to capture, at least be a part of renewable energy. While you can't necessarily claim all of these sustainability benefits, dollar savings is dollar savings. And sometimes these simple things like a community solar project or program can start that snowball effect of capturing savings, documenting that, communicating that within your organization, and trying to use these savings to offset additional costs that you would have to incur to take advantage of the other utility incentive programs that we've talked about. The cost of inaction, I think, is relatively straightforward, but we always say that the cheapest kilowatt hour is the one that you don't use. And if there are waste or is waste within your facility, transforming your facility or reducing your overall utility spend by 10 to 30% can be relatively significant. We also are seeing that there's a lot of volatility in respective utility territories. We had mentioned Texas on this call with ERCOT. There's been a lot of cost and price volatility there, depending upon your purchasing strategy. So having a good handle on your infrastructure, ensuring, understanding what needs to be replaced and when, and working with teams internally or externally to plan for that replacement in the most cost-effective way is in every organization's best interest. Also, there are compliance penalties, as I mentioned. These can be quite significant. So it makes sense to have the conversation about investing in infrastructure, planning for that 2030 time horizon. If you are to be subject to a penalty, it's best to at least engage in conversation and consider enhancing or replacing infrastructure now to avoid penalties in the future. And lastly, stakeholder expectations. There are a lot of different reporting mechanisms that certain organizations are subject to that people are looking for. So ESG scores will be factored into a variety of different profiles, credit ratings, and that could have implications for the facility. And a lot of these reporting requirements are putting organizations in a place where they do need to publicly say or disclose how much energy and emissions that they are contributing into the environment. And lastly, also, I think a lot of employees like to consider, want to work for energy efficient, sustainable organizations. So it could be a marketing tool for anybody to pursue.
Thank you, Jeff. That is quite a volume of information, a little bit like drinking from the fire hose, I'd say. So thank you. So there's a couple of questions that came up in the chat. And I don't know if we want to capture those, I don't know if everybody can see those.
Yes, if we're ready to take questions, we are happy for everyone to enter questions either into the chat or using the Q&A function. We did have one that came up previously that while we're waiting for some other questions, if you guys are ready for those, we can move to the question portion.
Okay, so I was going to say, so while we're waiting for those to populate there, so back to the action plan here. So what do we do? What's my next step? So we start, you have our contact information, or you will have our contact information, and all of these facilities, it starts with actually getting, putting our eyes on the facility and doing a walkthrough and understanding what your opportunities are, and then finding programs that fit your opportunities based on the states you're in. And again, and I referenced this before, is that once we complete the audit, we can build a roadmap to get you to where we present the opportunities. What are we trying to achieve? Are we, is it just energy savings? Do we want to do carbon? Carbon credits? Do we want to do community solar? So again, it all starts, we got to start at one point, and we got to build that roadmap. And then with our team, and we have none of us are experts in every field, but we have, between all of us in our group, we have somebody who's an expert in some field, and we help get you to where you want to be, getting the grants, tax credits, rebates, building that roadmap to make a difference in your energy reduction. Again, talking like I referenced earlier, there's about, on average, energy is 30% of your overall of your overhead. So, and that can be debated one way or the other, but generally it runs about 30%. So that said, I'd like to go turn it over to a couple of questions if we have them populated now.
We do have some questions. Thank you both.
Okay.
So one came in a little while ago where someone asked if you could provide an update. Do you know what the future is for the REAP grant, the Rural Energy for America program? And along with that, since I know there's so much flux around things these days, maybe you could add on if there are any tips for what a manufacturer should do if that is something that is included as part of their strategic plan for the next year.
So that depends on where you are. So the yes is still in effect, but what is the future? we don't know. Just like we don't know about the ITC tax credit, but we do know it's a monumental lift to remove those programs. So for the future, for the immediate future, they are in effect. I referenced this earlier, the 179D, the ITC, the REAP grants, the short-term futures, they are staying in effect.
All right, thank you. Another question, and I know this has come up quite a few times from our members, which is retroactive applicability of some of these grants and incentives. If someone has completed an energy project in the last 12 months, so within the past year, can they go back and capture the dollars that maybe were available if they didn't realize?
I would have to say I'm sorry, but no. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Most of the utilities we work with, that's a hard no. But we have not worked with every utility in every state. But generally, that's not an opportunity.
Just to expand upon that as well, and I think for those that have completed the projects and didn't take advantage of incentives, it would be good to engage with the utility just to talk through what you did and how to plan for incorporating incentives into future projects. And also just to kind of jump back to that nice CERTA slide and just speaking towards an energy management program more broadly, that making sure that you're documenting the wins, where you are saving energy, where there is a return on that investment, having that readily available to speak to your energy consumption profile is always going to be to your benefit, either when engaging with the utilities to show all of the work that you have done, or again, engaging internally to show the benefit of how you are proactively maintaining and investing in the infrastructure for your locations.
Thank you. Okay, a question about technology providers. So I know that we specifically were talking about manufacturers, but does Environ collaborate, and have you seen it work where you partner with technology providers to support energy efficiency projects as well?
I can take that one, Brian. Yes, I think that I mean, I probably say this too often, but teamwork truly does make the dream work. We can't do everything for everybody, and it does require subject matter expertise. So we are vendor agnostic for Environ specifically. We want to find the right solution, the right partner based on your specific needs or specific project requirements. We typically will look to and just use our vendor network, just who has done good work with us, who do we have really good success stories with. But we also understand that a lot of your organizations have a lot of long-term relationships with those that have maintained the facilities, that have done work previously. So we always want to keep an open mind when we identify who is the best partner and what is the right solution for your particular manufacturing location.
Thank you. And I know we've seen a lot of questions come in specifically for certain states. And as I mentioned to a few in the chat, we will get back to you with personalized resources and answer some of these questions, which is why we did ask for your state. I will flag one that maybe in the last 2 minutes we can address live, because there seemed to be a large number from Maryland. And I know that Environ also has some presence in Maryland. So can you share a little bit maybe about, does Maryland have anything available for lighting upgrades or efficiency upgrades in general for manufacturers?
So the state of Maryland actually, and again, we had to pick and choose the states because there are so many. So apologies and no offense to any Maryland attendees for not speaking about the state of Maryland. The Maryland, it's what they call the MEA incentive program. Some of these incentive programs are kind of on a rolling basis. As I mentioned, they're dictated by the utility as to when these utility incentive programs expire. The MEA incentives have an application deadline, I believe, in Q1 of every year for you to take advantage of. It is a very broad incentive covering a lot of different opportunities, either, again, those audits, efficiency technology. I can't speak to lighting specifically. Lighting is something that we are seeing become less and less prevalent on or within incentive programs specifically, just because the LED technology has been around for so long and is to some extent mandated by a lot of updated energy conservation or energy codes at the state or the city level. That said, there's typically something, be it a direct purchase discount or something to that effect. And even if not, there might be lighting control opportunities, and obviously just the overall benefit of lighting improvements, the foot candles per square foot, the ability to control lights when people are not in or spaces aren't occupied. So even if you do pursue lighting, you'll get the added benefit of that demand and kWh reduction throughout your facility.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, we will follow up for states. So thank you. I see more people putting their states into the chat. I do want to flag one last question then, because this actually did come up. We had part of our NAM board here this week, and this came up too, was the topic of hydrogen generation. Are we seeing some specific awards, incentives, grants for hydrogen as an energy source?
I can jump in there as well, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. Go ahead, Jeff, please.
So I think the high level answer is no. And again, I say that that I could be wrong, but we try to keep again a good understanding of what is happening within the incentives. Hydrogen as a newer technology is a hot topic of conversation. The challenge with something like that is just the distribution of that energy source. So it's something that is being considered. A lot of organizations are hesitant to pursue it just because of the uncertainty. You see that with any new technology. You do see, and again, NYSERDA specifically, and any of those state agencies or state-run programs that are market makers, if you will, are looking to offset the cost of these newer technologies, the due diligence, the business case. I do think that hydrogen will become more and more part of the conversation, but I can say that within our client base, it's not something that we're necessarily dealing with on a day-to-day basis. There are obviously some carbon benefits to hydrogen as a energy source, but we really think that there's that, to me, in your energy efficiency journey is towards the end of that maturity scale, and that there's likely to be a lot of near term opportunities to capitalize on reducing gas consumption, reducing electricity consumption, installing better building controls within your facilities to help make sure that you can manage the energy that you are consuming today.
Thank you, Jeff. And I know that we have now hit time, so I want to be respectful of everyone's schedule. We will get back to everyone with some answers, follow up over the next few weeks. And as mentioned, do look for an email from us tomorrow with access to this recording, as well as a white paper detailing some of the specific grants that we've been talking about today. So Brian and Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with us today. Thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. This now concludes our webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everybody for attending.